Ms. Olson, you may proceed.
Okay, LD 1820. I really hope is what you had said. You have a lot
I
of
did say
very
LD
similar
1820
numbers,
is
so,
what I think I did, yes.
an act to simplify
I love
regulation
the number, but you know,
of
state of
the
Maine.
adult use cannabis industry.
This is the state of Maine bill. All right.
Okay, gonna go through the summary first. More detailed on the blue form than on the
Thank you.
document. So the bill amends the Cannabis Legalization Act and the laws governing personal adult use of cannabis in the following ways. 1, it eliminates the individual identification card requirement for all natural persons licensed under the Cannabis Legalization Act. 2, it prohibits the Office of Cannabis Policy from requiring licensees to sign forms that require the licensee to waive certain rights protected under constitutional, statutory, or common law privileges. 3, it eliminates the prohibition on product manufacturing facility licensees from extracting hemp or manufacturing products that contain hemp or ingredients derived from hemp that do not also contain cannabis. 4, it amends certain provisions regarding cannabis delivery transactions, including prohibiting the office to adopt a rule requiring licensees to video record all transactions conducted through a delivery service, and allowing licensees to use the tracking system established by the department or the office to track delivery transactions. 5, it eliminates cannabis purchase limits, but does not eliminate the limits established for use, possession, cultivation, or transportation for personal adult use cannabis and cannabis products. It makes changes to specified event sales, including eliminating the requirement that a cannabis store shall record all sales conducted at the specified event using a video recording device in a manner that captures, to the extent practical, only the individuals making the purchase, which is kept by the store for 45 days. It must be made available upon request by the office for inspection. And it changes by allowing licensees to use the tracking system established by the department and office to track sales at specified events. 7, it eliminates the requirements that a licensee shall submit to an inspection of its licensed premises upon demand and without notice during the licensee's business hours by the office, a criminal justice agency, or an official authorized by the municipality in which the licensed premises are located. 8, it eliminates the ability for the office to require through rule other information that be included on the label of adult use cannabis and adult use cannabis products sold or offered for sale that is not explicitly mentioned in statute. It allows advertising and marketing of adult use cannabis and adult use cannabis products to include qualifying patients' testimonials of how cannabis for medical use has provided palliative or therapeutic effects for the patient's conditions. And the bill also provides a definition in Title 36, relevant to the excise tax, of cannabis biomass to mean any part of a cannabis plant, whether processed or unprocessed, including dried cannabis flower or cannabis seeds, used for extraction and manufactured into concentrate, except that cannabis biomass does not include the stalks or roots of the cannabis plant and does not include any part of a hemp plant. The bill includes biomass with trim for the purpose of the excise tax, which is set at $94 per pound or fraction thereof, sold to other licensees in the state. So that is what the bill does. We do not have a preliminary fiscal impact statement, but one is anticipated, mainly because of the proposed changes to the excise tax and the definition of biomass, and potentially other parts of the bill, but definitely because of that. The change to the excise tax will impact the general fund and also may have an impact on the adult use cannabis public health and safety and municipal opt-in fund. Couple of pieces of additional information. It was noted in testimony that proposals in this bill were considered as a part of bills before this committee last session that were excluded from the final versions of those bills as a result of intense negotiations and compromise by all parties involved in those negotiations. It was also noted in testimony that individual identification cards are unnecessary because of the use of the tracking system tags and transport manifests, which include the driver, vehicle, and tag numbers. The committee is considering, either in this proposal or other proposals before them, removing or significantly altering those provisions. I've already mentioned that the bill we previously considered covers my points regarding hemp manufacturing at adult use cannabis products manufacturing facilities. And it's been a while since we talked about the budget, but it did include, doesn't feel like it should have been as long ago, but it is, does include a proposal to reduce the excise tax rates by a third and to increase sales tax from 10 to 14, which is the last thing I knew about the budget. Okay, I do have some issues for consideration or technical issues. My first one is that I'm not, as your analyst, I don't know what's being gotten at in section 2 of the bill. I don't know what that's going to directly impact. I did see the testimony where they've submitted an example of the form, but I'm not really sure what is the information that is being required that is otherwise protected constitutionally, statutorily, or under common law. I don't know, so I have no idea what information we're talking about or how this fits into the application process, other than that I've seen the form.
Yep.
That's all I know. And so I can't offer you any more advice on section 2 without additional information. Section 6 of the bill, one hopes I went in order, but who knows? Section 6 of the bill states that the office may not adopt a rule requiring video transactions conducted through a delivery service. Should this proposal include additional provisions for what is allowed? What is the intent of video recording all deliveries? Are there other methods that could achieve these goals? Perhaps similar to other consumer delivery models, such as groceries, which may include alcohol and require age verification. So is that the intent of section 7? I think there's room for policy consideration there, because all this does is say they can't do it. It doesn't really say what they could do to replace it. Section 7 refers to the tracking system currently in place to track cannabis plants, adult use cannabis, and adult use cannabis products from immature cannabis plant to the point of retail sale, return, disposal, or destruction. Is this current system capable of recording delivery transactions as prescribed in the bill? The committee is also considering a proposal in a separate bill that would make this system voluntary and would eliminate the current contract and prevent the office from contracting with any other third party for such a system or the development of such a system. So you should be aware that those would create conflicts. Although the bill eliminates the cannabis purchase limits, it does not eliminate the limits on what a person 21 years of age or older may use, possess, or transport at any one time relating to cannabis and cannabis concentrate, nor on what that person may possess, cultivate, or transport at any one time regarding cannabis plants and the cannabis produced from those plants. So the only thing that's being repealed is the sale, but the person is still governed by those provisions. I'm not sure what the intent of removing the sale limits are, if those other are, they stay in existence. Section 10 refers to rules adopted under this subsection. There really isn't another rulemaking provision, and nothing here describes whether these would be routine, technical, or major substantive. There is maybe an overarching rule provision that it is trying to capture, but since it says this subsection, it's a little confusing. Oh gosh, I didn't put a section number for this one, so very useful. What does generic transport manifest mean?
It's 11.
Oh, excellent. I did go in order. So this would prohibit certain information, including customer data and tracking identification of the products. As I mentioned earlier, it was noted in testimony that these elements provide important information to law enforcement that make, in their opinion, individual identification cards unnecessary. So is this information important for law enforcement in the situation described in the proposal of a traffic stop or other relevant event? Section 19 of the bill refers to qualifying patients and medical use cannabis and would allow claims related to medical use cannabis to appear on adult use cannabis or products, even though these are different programs with different rules, regulations, and participants. And then I'll note that this is connected, should section 21 of the bill be amended rather than repealed to be tailored to the new provisions in section 19. That's a violation and penalty section. And then the associate commissioner. for tax policy at DAFs, noted that additional changes to Title 36 may be necessary. And I excerpted from their testimony what it is that they believe might be needed to move forward with those changes. There were proposed amendments which are listed here, one of which I have already noted.
Yep, see that. Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Does any member seek further information from either OCP or an industry participant or both? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Chair recognizes Representative Fairclough.
I'd like to hear from Maine Medical Association or Maine Public Health if they're around to get their comments. If, I don't know if Maine Medical's around, I think Maine Public Health.
Do you have a specific question about a specific part of the legislation to help guide their response?
Well, what would guide me is a better understanding of whether there's a public health seal of approval or whether they have concerns.
And who would you like to hear from?
If we don't have Maine Medical Association, Maine Public Health Association.
Please step forward if you are willing to engage with the committee regarding Representative Fairclough's requests. Thank you for being here. Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Becca Bolus, and I'm the Executive Director at Maine Public Health Association. We did have several concerns from a public health perspective with this bill. The first was the weakening of delivery. So we have opposed at-home delivery of cannabis in the past. And with this bill, it would disallow the video recording of an interaction. And so our concern would be, and our primary concern with delivery is ensuring that sales are happening with someone who is 21 and older. And so if you have a recording of that, then you can have some verification. If you don't have a recording, then you don't. And so if there was a concern from a parent with their child getting cannabis that was delivered at home, there wouldn't be proof to fall back on for that. We had also opposed in LD40 last session the free samples, and in this bill it allows for unlimited samples, and so we have concern. We saw that that was a compromise that was made, that it set limits on how much people could get with their free sample, and in this it removes that cap.
Can you please tell me where that is in the bill?
Nope,
Not
I
that
can't.
I challenged it, I just don't, I didn't
Maybe
see
you
that,
can. Yeah,
so I
I'm
wanna,
sorry.
I wanna know where that is.
It's on top of page 3.
Thank you, top of
Should be
page
the bill.
3.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yes, there's a strike in the total amount of samples. See the memo. Okay, yeah.
And I know that.
1 second.
Oh, I'm
if
so
you could
sorry.
please,
Yeah,
and
sorry.
Ms. Olson, is that in your bill analysis?
Yeah, yes, because
Where
as I
is
said,
that?
it's the amount that can be sold, the cap, the current limitation has been repealed.
Mm-hmm.
I've noted that there's perhaps an inconsistency because it's under chapter 3 of this title regarding personal use. There are still the provisions there. But again, I'm not sure as it comes to samples that are maybe not sold. And you're talking in an enclosed, I'm not sure how they would align. And I would say that that issue should be resolved and considered by the committee if you're going to take away the sale limitations, but leave in the ability for that person to have, transport, possess, or use.
I understand. I understand your
the
point. It's always confused me as well. I think that I'll let you finish, Ms. Boulos, but I think that because the personal adult use statutes allow for a person to furnish cannabis without any remuneration to another person who is 21 years of age, and there's no limit on the number of times you can do that in a day or a week or a year, might be where it's coming from. But thank you for at least seeing that section that removes the sample limits that we agreed to last session. So please continue, Ms. Boulos.
We also had concerns with LD40 around the patient testimonials, and that was relevant to medical. And with this bill, it's adult use. And so our same concerns about unproven patient testimonials being now allowed in the adult use program. We would still have those same concerns that we'd expressed last session. And then our last one was around, and we also expressed the same concern. So I'm sorry to be redundant for those of you that were on the committee last year, but the same safety concerns around entry into different aspects of a manufacturing facility. This would allow kids, my understanding, maybe I'm misunderstanding it. My understanding was that it would allow not all employees to have access to places within the facility where there could be hazardous materials. So those were our primary concerns.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Representative Faircloth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Testimonials, explain that further. Why is that a concern?
So our concern would be, and this has been raised multiple times with the committee, very understandably so, the research into into cannabis, its impact on different health conditions. Because there isn't research necessarily to support a statement that's made about that, there could give the impression that there is research to support that. So usually when you see testimonials and advertisements for medications, there's the disclaimer that these are not supported by the FDA or have not been approved by the FDA. That was relevant in the medical program. I believe that the way that bill language landed, that disclaimer does have to be added. I don't think that's the same with this bill. So that was the compromise, was having that disclaimer language last session.
Chair recognizes Representative Boyer.
Thank you. Could you remind the committee if the MPH, you mentioned compromise, did you all end up supporting LD40?
Nope.
Okay. And my second
And when
question,
I say compromise, I don't mean our compromise. That was a compromise that was arrived at.
gotcha. And if we were to make the changes that you suggest today, would you support the bill?
I'd have to double check, but I'd be really happy if those changes. I'd have to go back through the bill, but we would be happier if those.
If you could do that while
I
we're
will.
working it
Yeah, I'll do
now,
my best. I was
we-
just going back
we
through.
appreciate that.
Yep.
Representative Faircloth, did you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
All right. So, sorry, the Senate Chair has to run to another committee to take care of some VLA work. So where have we landed on this bill? Are we seeing an area where there could be some compromise, or how are we feeling, committee? Representative Boyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not opposed to making some of the changes that were suggested. Rolling back removing the purchase limits, for example, and the samples, I think are reasonable in the interest of good faith and compromise. But there's also, I think, a lot of helpful things in here as well. So I think it'd be helpful to hear from the folks that are inclined to vote no, what they need to get to yes.
Okay. Is that something, Representative Faircloth, you'd be willing to consider? Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the willingness to modify. And I don't particularly see those concerns as something that you address them, and that's not so big of an issue. I guess I'd want to give the department an opportunity to see if they say anything. And again, my interest is not testing. My goal is whether it affects public health. And if testing relates to that, fine. But otherwise, I'm not interested in testing in and of itself.
So, Representative Faircloth, did you have a question for the department?
Yes, I'd like to have them comment on the public health aspects of this measure and if there's anything that's of significant concern.
Hi, I'm Gabby Berry Pierce. I'm the policy director for the Office of Cannabis Policy. One of the things we're talking about 1820?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. One of the things that is most concerning to us is, or I should say, there's a number of things that are concerning to us in this bill. One would be allowing any member of the public into areas where things like inherently hazardous substances can be used, or agricultural chemicals like pesticides are used or stored. I would also say that creating different security standards for retail sales, depending on where they're done, seems to conflict with our general preference to be consistent in treating like activities the same way. And that's related to the filming and the of the transactions via delivery and at specified events. I would say that the tracking requirements are so vague as to be unworkable here, quite frankly. there's already a separate sales delivery manifest used for delivery sales to consumers that is separate and apart from the wholesale delivery manifest that's used. Again, we have concerns about the use of patient testimonials on adult use cannabis. We would be concerned that folks might think they're getting a medical product. And then the excise tax piece is also concerning. I believe, I just want to double check our testimony because this is one of many, many bills today. I think that's it, but I struggle greatly to understand what is meant by the alternative tracking requirements here. So if that's going to be maintained in the bill, we definitely need some additional clarity.
Representative Boyer, and I'll invite Representative Chapman as well, if you want to expand upon the intentions there. Please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In talking with stakeholders that helped draft this with Representative Chapman, I think the issue around Section 7 is that the intent is to allow delivery transactions to be entered the same way as other transactions. So, i.e. entered into the tracking system before 11:59 p.m. each day. Right now, it has to be entered as a delivery in Metric, which is causing the issue because Metric doesn't communicate deliveries with any of the leading point of sale software options. So ideally, we would just fix it and say in the same way as in-store transactions without being required to mark the transaction as specific to delivery. And I think that same premise holds for the events portion as well.
Thank you. I'm gonna need a moment to wrap my brain around it because I know we're getting closer to dinner time. So are there any further questions from the committee for the department or for Representative Chapman?
Thank you, Chair. Representative Boyer covered that well. There was a lot of items thrown at me, but the one I was stuck on because kind of froze on one thing as multiple things were coming at me. The requirement to video a transaction at a delivery. We currently mail wine to people's homes without any kind of videoing. Right now, a retail store can deliver spirits or any other alcohol to somebody's home without video recording. It's a mere check of an ID and the transaction's done. So I parity, I think we use a lot, equity.
So I go about things a little differently than the good senator. And I'm always looking for folks to come to the table and compromise. And then I know I'm getting the sense that there might be some compromise that can happen here. So what I'm going to ask of the committee is that we table it just for now, not for tomorrow, but just for a little bit for tonight and move on to another bill. And then maybe some folks in public health might have a moment to kind of dive into it. And then we come back to it. Would the committee be okay if we did that? All right. Well, Representative Himes.
Make a motion to table.
Ooh. So motion to table by Representative Himes has been seconded by Representative Fredericks. Fredericks, I'm the worst. All those in favor, please raise their hand in the usual manner. It is unanimous by everyone present. Am I going too fast or too slow, Miss Olson or Miss Hebert? All right, perfect. So we will table